Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm gonna ramble on here for a minute. Just vamp for long enough for Jess to hear if the sound is on.
I hear myself.
There we go. We should have a code word for that, so I don't have to.
So I don't have to like draw attention to
it. John. There's a new doctor, and she is a lady.
Yep.
It would be awesome if Jodie Whittaker played Doctor Aphra. I would love. I mean, she doesn't look anything like Doctor Aphra.
She doesn't look anything like her, but personality-wise, it would be great.
But hello, everyone. We're already jumping to it. Hope you're all doing well today. We are coming to you on a different day than usual. Same time, different day. But same week, like not missing a week because we've never missed a week.
Yep. In approximately like a year and a couple of weeks of our weekly show, we're at 38 episodes, so we're right on schedule.
It's because there's only like 35 weeks a year, right?
Yep. Last I checked on my calendar.
Yeah. I mean, I tore some pages out, so I'm sure that's...
Yeah, I decided there were a couple of weeks in June I just wasn't feeling.
I mean, if Julius Caesar can just rewrite the calendar anytime he wants to, then I don't see why we can't.
Exactly.
What does Caesar have that we don't have?
I mean, I've played Caesar in Civ multiple times, so I feel like that counts.
I played Mark Antony and Julius Caesar in high school. Does that count for anything?
There you go.
Yeah, B-Man, I guess you're just wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to have to be the one to break that to you.
We're here to educate everyone about how the calendar works.
Yeah. I mean, that's the topic of today's stream is calendars and how they operate. So thanks for tuning in. Now that we got that cleared up, we'll see you next week.
Yep.
And it's been nice. See you next time.
Good night. Yep. Anyway.
But we are here this week to talk about one of our favorite, and I don't know where she would rank in your like favorite new canon exclusive characters.
Pretty high.
But in my top 5 at least is Doctor Aphra.
Aphra is a strong competitor for favorite in new canon.
Yeah.
The only especially if we kept it to expanded universe new canon, then pretty sure she's my favorite.
Right.
Otherwise, it would be like her and Rey and Kylo in Finn would be like my top. So that's her competition. It's like actual movie characters.
But if you're unfamiliar, that's a shame because Dr. Aphra is awesome.
So and we're also going to spoil a lot.
Yeah, Lobot will be reminding you as we go through. I said it to post that there are going to be some spoilers in today's stuff. So Dr. Aphra comes to us first from the Vader Comics. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. And then she also appeared in one of the stories in From a Certain Point of View, and has since had her own solo comic. So she's all over the place. She's been in the Star Wars mainline comic a few times. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. But we are both big fans of Dr. Aphra, so much that you've even talked about. I mean, I don't know how serious you ever were or still are about this, but at one point you had thought about doing a Dr. Aphra cosplay when you go to Celebration.
I still would love to do it. I think where I've kind of drifted from it is I've never been to a big con before, and I don't want to also add first time cosplaying at a first time big thing.
Yeah.
But it's definitely on the list of if I ever did a cosplay, and I might just make myself do one because I think that would be a fun thing to do. For sure, it would be as her. I've enjoyed her so much. You and I are mostly caught up on her comic. I don't think, unless you have, maybe you have. I haven't read any of Volume 5, which just because it's not out. Like I said, I read these mostly in trades, so I probably won't get to that one until that trade comes out.
Right.
But I've read through Catastrophic Con. To tell you how much I like this comic, I buy the trades before I've read the comic.
Right.
Like, I make the purchase having not read the material.
But yeah, so I've read the same thing up through volume 4 of her comic, and then I've read all of the Vader comic, because that ended before
that's
hers started, right?
Yes, that's the Gillen Vader comic, not to be confused with Charles Soule's Vader comic, which just wrapped up.
Right.
So Soule's Vader comic, I believe, is pre A New Hope, or at least starts pre A New Hope. I haven't finished that one myself, but Gillen's Vader is post A New Hope.
Right.
And that is one of my all-time anything I've read too was Gillen's Vader comic.
And her solo comic is still ongoing, but as far as I know, like, there's no plans to like cancel that anytime soon either. So like,
I haven't heard anything. If they did, I would be sad, to be honest. But I also feel like this is a character where even if this line ends, like, I don't think she's going anywhere. Because Boss Bounty just pointed out she got voted as to be a vintage figure. Like, she's a really popular character for anybody who's kind of like in on reading the new canon, or at least the new canon comics.
Right.
I think I've talked to maybe 2 people that have tried the Aphra comic and just didn't like it. Yeah. And everyone else I've talked to has been obsessed with it. Right. So that's a pretty good track record.
Speaking of obsession with Dr. Aphra, why don't you talk for a minute about like why you like Dr. Aphra? Like, maybe that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Well, you meet her in, I think it's not right away in the Vader comics. She comes in partway through. The Vader comics I own in hardcover, so I don't really remember where like one arc picks up and the next one starts. But she comes in not at the beginning, but early on. But you meet her, and the pages are literally like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and only it's in space and there's robots instead of tarantulas, and she's basically portrayed as evil Dr. Indiana Jones, only robots.
Right.
And that's really the best way I can think to describe her character. And it's phenomenal. And I really fell in love with her character at first because of her relationship with Vader. And then she's just been able to sustain herself as such a great character in her solo. But what I liked about Vader is at a point where he has this is kind of spoilery, but it's for the Vader comic, but it happens really, really early on, and the comics came out in 2015. So, but Vader it's just after A New Hope, and Vader learns that the kid who blew up the Death Star has the last name Skywalker, which means he's learned that the Emperor has been lying to him for like decades, and he's not sure what to do about it. And so he enlists Dr. Aphra to help him basically do all of these conspiracies against the Emperor, because he no longer can trust the Emperor.
Right.
And when she meets Vader, she's, this is big, scary Darth Vader, and she can't shut up because she's nervous. So she's like chatting off Vader's ear, like, "Oh man, you're a Sith," and blah blah blah, and it's so funny to me. And she's like working on 000, which is what John, great Canadian guy there in the comments, is talking about. He's the evil C-3PO, and it's like, Anakin building 3PO, and then she's like, it's like a mirror with her. It's like poetry. It rhymes. She's building evil 3PO and chatting off Darth Vader's ear. And she literally looks at him and she's like, "So I'm going to get to work with you, and I'm pretty sure you're going to kill me because that's what you do. But this is literally the best job I could ever have, so it's totally fine if you kill me later." Which then morphs into another kind of character beat throughout the comics. But I don't. There was just something so endearing about somebody who's in the presence of Darth Vader and is so nervous that she just talks. I don't know why, but I pretty much fell in love with her character in that moment.
Well, and I don't know. I even think the way you put it as like evil space Indiana Jones is, I mean, one, this is something we could talk about, is like her morality. Because, I mean, she does have a different moral code than Luke Skywalker or Leia or somebody, or even like, a person like Lando or something like that, who's like morally questionable at times. But one, I think that's how Indiana Jones was to start with too, for being honest. but I don't feel like, I don't know. I think she's more like anti-hero, I guess, is what you could call her, but that seems like too like cultural cliche to me.
And she's not usually on a quest to help anybody either.
Right.
But she's not on a quest to like take over anything either. Like she's
But I mean, she's self-interested, but she's also not. Like I don't think she's as she is more self-interested than people expect her to be. But I don't think she is as self-interested as she thinks she is either.
Yes, I would agree with that completely.
So, like, I don't know. It ends up being this weird kind of characterization, but she is definitely a fly by the seat of your pants kind of person.
Yes,
that much is certain.
Even more, I'd say, than Han Solo. Like, I think she'd give Han Solo a run for their money in making it up as you go.
Like, there are several times through the comics where she says, you know, basically, I have no idea how this is going to work out.
It just usually does.
I didn't want you to be around because I feel more comfortable, like, just making it up as I go when it's just me. But...
Right. Well, both Remastered, which was the third story arc in her solo line, and Catastrophic Con, which is 4, end with just this really weird, it's a mad, mad, mad world kind of clash of all these different people coming together and like the weirdest thing happening. Right. Like, I had to reread Remastered because I couldn't even follow all of the threads. And it wasn't that it was poorly written, it was wonderfully written, but there was just so much going on, my brain could not process it in one go. And I'm like, okay, wait, this person's, oh my gosh, it was great. It was so good. But yeah, it's her morality, though, like you said, is something that is very interesting to me because she does really terrible things. Like, really, before we fired up the stream, we were talking about a couple of moments that she really almost literally stabs people in the back that she would care the most about. And you can see it's just tearing her apart inside that she does it, but she doesn't know how to not do it.
Right.
Like, she doesn't know how not to hurt the people around her because she just never thinks anything through.
Right.
But, and she knows what she's doing is going to hurt people and she does it anyway. Yeah. And yet she's not like, but she feels guilt over it. And I think what's kind of interesting too, and that, again, we've warned spoilers like 5 times. So this is a spoiler for the first arc of her solo comic. You learn that she's not really a doctor. She faked her credentials. Granted, she faked her credentials because her professor screwed her out of getting her credentials, but she still faked her credentials.
Right.
But what's funny to me is she has these fake credentials, and yet she is so really in it for the discovery. Like, we were reading Catastrophic Con, and she can get away from the really bad situation she is in there, and she has, like, literally, she has her girlfriend and her ex-girlfriend, and they can all get away. And instead, she leaves both of them behind so she can go find a lightsaber that's buried in sentient, like, ghost fungus.
Yep.
And she can't help herself. And, like, even when they're coming up with a way to get away later, like, they're already on, like, plan C. At that point, she still, like, raises the ship up so that she can get the lightsaber, not necessarily because it helps them.
Right.
It's just like, oh my gosh. Because she's really in it for the discovery.
Right. Well, and I think it's worth pointing out that while she didn't technically earn her doctorate, she was working towards it.
Yes, she was.
Like it's not like she has archaeological interest. Like she is not just interested in the profit. I do love, I mean, this has almost become a trope kind of thing, I think, you know, because Indiana Jones's line is always, you know, this belongs in a museum. And like several different times she's explicitly said, if I don't take this is going to end up in a museum somewhere.
This belongs in an armory.
Yeah. And so, like, it's definitely, like, literally meant to be a play off of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
But But I don't know. It just feels like she is genuinely about the adventure, and I think she does have an interest in like history and stuff, and in like what that archaeology represents. And it's and that's one of the reasons why I say it's not just pure self-interest for her, even though it definitely is self-interest. There's more to it than that, and more to her than that as well.
And I think what's interesting about her is the kind of relationships she ends up in. So for a while she had, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce his name. It's Black Kristan, the like bad Wookiee. There's so many like dark reflections of characters throughout this comic. There's like the evil Chewbacca, the evil 3PO, the evil R2. She's the evil Indiana Jones. Evil is a strong word. Well, no, she straight murders a lot of people, so maybe it's not a strong word. She's not out to take over the galaxy, but she will probably shoot you if you get in her way. Hello, Sarge! But she, she's in this weird relationship, not like relationship, but she has this weird dynamic with this Wookiee because she owes him, and he she owes him a ton of money, and she's trying to get that paid off. And then she owes money to all these different people, and then she's got this thing with Vader where Vader thinks she's dead, and she's trying to keep that undercover. And now she has this weird thing where 000 is like the leader of a crime syndicate, and he it really wants to toy with her specifically.
Right.
And then now I guess based on the end of 4, she's like weirdly bonded with him, and they can't get more than like 20 meters apart or whatever it was.
Right, because Dr.
Evazan,
put a bomb in their head or
something. And then, she has her lady friend Tolvin, who like both loves her and is furious that she does at the same time. And so she's like trying to save Aphra while simultaneously bringing Darth Vader in on her. Like, it's just the weirdest relationships that go on in this comic. And I love it because you just never know what anyone's going to do. It's because she's such a wild card. And it's like the characters in the comic feel the way I feel, where it's like she's so charismatic and you're just drawn to her for some strange reason. And yet she's just going to cause you pain. And so like you love her and you hate that you love her the entire time.
It's strange. Like with another one of her relationships / friendships, however you want to say it, with Sana Staros, who was, Mrs. Han Solo for a while too.
Yeah.
Is interesting too, because Sana says that explicitly, like, I don't know why I'm here helping you, but here I am.
Yeah.
And like Sana is one of those people she calls because she knows that like she's she can't help but go help her, because like she is that charismatic person. And and this is one I was posting in our Discord about this the other day because I was getting caught up on some of the comics.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can't, like, I know you said you talked to 1 or 2 people that didn't like Doctor Aphra, and I don't know if that meant the comic or the character, but like she is just so charismatic in a way that I don't think, even with a character like Han Solo or Lando, like it's, I don't know, it's a charisma that is all her own, and I can't imagine somebody not being drawn into her as a character.
Right. And I think I think weirdly enough, I think what's so interesting about her as a character is she is simultaneously exactly who she is and also the most dishonest character you'll meet.
Right.
And it's such a strange dichotomy where like she just is who she is, and she's not like, she's never going to be untrue to herself as far as she's concerned, and yet she will lie to everyone else. So it's like this weird moment where I think anytime you're around anyone who's really just that true to themselves, there's something magnetic about it. Like if you think about just anybody in culture, real or not, the ones that are just so intriguing are the ones who just don't care, and they're going to be who they're going to be. And so you have that, but like that magnetism is buried under Like it's like a Tootsie Pop. Like the magnetism is the Tootsie Pop, and you have to like try to crunch through the sucker layer of duplicity to get to her. And there's just something interesting about that hunt.
Right. I mean, one thing that's interesting to me though too about that kind of realness is I feel like she does lie to a lot of people, and she is misleading and duplicitous. But I think she also is upfront about the fact that she is misleading and duplicitous. So it's like, it's one of those things that I think she would tell people, you know who I am. I am true to who I am. Like, don't expect me to be different. But it's one of those things too, because if it were Han Solo would have gone good by now. Like, I think, a lot of people when the Solo movie came out, and the movie kind of showed Han being a good, decent guy. I read some people saying they didn't like that because they thought it undermined his, big character
his
moment.
Shot first.
Yeah, in A New Hope.
Yeah.
But to me, that was always who Han Solo was. Han Solo was the good guy pretending not to be.
Right.
And that's not who Aphra is. Like, I don't think that Aphra is like, I mean, she's not into the Empire because of the fascism.
Right.
So she's not that type of bad person, but she's also not an inherently good person necessarily either.
Right.
Which is I don't know, like that's, but she's not like full villain either, because like all along she acknowledges that Vader is evil. Like,
yes.
And she knows, like, this was the whole point of volume 4 of her comic too. Was 000 trying to prove to her, you are as bad as I am. You are as evil and maniacal as I am. And I don't think that ever, like I never bought that. I don't think she ever necessarily bought that either. But
I do think she's afraid that's true.
I think so too. But I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either, but I think that's her like deep dark fear that it's true. Because to be honest, that move she pulled at the end of 4 was a really bad trick. Like, I was sitting there screaming at the pages, like, what are you doing?
I mean, but the alternative was to, like, risk the safety of her girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, her girlfriend did live.
Yeah.
She didn't know for a fact that she was going to, but Tolvin is alive. Tolvin is just tortured with the idea that she killed Aphra, which is a horrible feeling, but she's alive. Yeah. But that's very much Aphra's style of, I'll feel terrible later, but at least I'll be alive.
Which, if you're unfamiliar, so like Aphra works with Vader all through the Vader comic, at least once she appears in the Vader comic. Because like you said, he hires her to kind of find the guy that killed the Death Star before he knows who Luke is. And so that goes poorly, and we can talk about that. But at the end of the Vader comic, that relationship ends. And so all during her comic, Vader assumes that she's dead. Because she knows that he wants to use, like, she doesn't know that Luke is his son.
Right.
But she knows that he wants to use Luke as a tool against the Emperor. So to Vader, she is like a security risk because she knows the plan.
Yes.
And like literally nobody else knows the plan.
Right.
And so that's why she ends up in this position, because Tolvin calls in Vader. And then like Vader has to, I guess from his perspective, do something. But But I don't know. I think it was such a tough moment for her, and I mean, obviously she could have also wiped her own memory or something, and maybe she's too self-interested for something like that. But I don't know.
Well, and I think it is that Aphra's the type of person where I think if she can come up with a reason why the easy thing is also the right thing, she's going to do it.
Yeah.
So the easy thing is for her not to get her mind scrambled, which there's the Borgullet thing from Rogue One. There's a thing like that in this, and it was going to scramble people's brains basically. And Aphra actually offers And I do think this was genuine until Tolvin gave her an out. If Tolvin hadn't given her out, I think she would have gone through with it.
Right.
But she's like, I'm going to scramble my memory, and then maybe Vader will let me live because I won't know anymore. And then, but it doesn't solve the problem of would he let Tolvin live? Mm-hmm. And then Tolvin's like, no, scramble my memory. So then I don't know, because Aphra had told Aphra needed Tolvin's help. So Aphra told her Vader's plan and was like, now you know it too. So now you're in danger too.
Right.
So that was its own kind of scum move, but that's the whole other thing. So anyway, they're the only two that know Vader's secret. And so Tolvin's like, no, you got to scramble mine. So Aphra says that she's going to do that. And instead of taking away that memory, she makes Tolvin think that Tolvin killed Aphra.
Right.
To get Vader to trust Tolvin, and then to make Vader think that Aphra's dead.
Right.
And it tears Aphra up inside, partly because she's not sure if Tolvin's going to live through it, although it really is honestly Tolvin's only chance at living.
Yeah.
And I think it does hurt Aphra to cause Tolvin pain, but I think I really think it's the case of it's such an Aphra move, because I think there's a lot of Star Wars characters who would say, you know, it's better to die nobly.
Right.
And Aphra is it's better to live in pain and guilt. And I think that's really where her philosophy comes from.
Right. Which I don't know, I just feel like one of the reasons I like her so much is not that I agree with her morality necessarily.
Right.
But Star Wars, in important ways, is a story about morality.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't fit into any of the categories that we understand so far. Like,
no.
She doesn't have noble motivations like, you know, Leia or Luke or the Rebels. She doesn't have, you know, evil, you know, control the galaxy motivations. She doesn't have, you know, the galaxy needs a strong armed order motivations. She doesn't have pure profit motivations. It's something different than I think we've ever seen before. And I think that's part of the allure of that to me, is that her morality is so much its own thing, yet her philosophy is internally consistent. It's not like it doesn't make sense. Like you said, she is who she is, and she's not afraid of being that.
Right.
I mean, the one thing that she's afraid of is that she might be wrong about who she is.
Right.
And I don't know that's true, but
yeah, and I think with her morality, I was saying how she does have a fact-pov story from a certain point of view story that is written by Gillen, who writes the comics. And I was just kind of revisiting that last night, which was it was good anyway, but it was a lot better having read the Aphra comics, which I hadn't done prior to reading the short story. And so that short story, I would assume it would have to take place just before the Vader comics start, because
because of the time.
Because it's concurrent with A New Hope, and the Vader comics start after A New Hope. So this is before she's really started her journey, and in it, she actually spares this stormtrooper that's about to kill her. She spares his life, which felt very different from the Aphra I had been reading, which would have shot that stormtrooper no problem.
Right.
But it was a moment where she kind of had this heart-to-heart with this young stormtrooper, barely not a kid, and tells him, like, you know, galaxy's a tough place, and, you know, it has this whole talk about humanity and morality and all of this stuff, and then ultimately lets him go. And this scared kid, instead of letting her go because she let him go, turns her into the Empire, and she has to run. And to me, it was like that moment that cemented her thinking, okay, the entire galaxy's out to get you, and if you show weakness to anyone, you're dead. And I think that's part of where her, like, okay, I'll shoot you, I'll betray you, I'll do whatever, comes from, is because that's just how things work, and inevitably people do that to you. Right. And so there's also kind of this interesting cyclical nature that doesn't necessarily excuse her behavior, but at least helps you see where she's coming from, I guess.
Right.
And that was something I really liked seeing. And it was fun getting to read her in like prose as opposed to a comic. And I love her as a comic character, and her stories are so visual, they're better as comics.
Sure.
But it was nice to like really get into her head and like really like go through her thought processes in a story, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Which I don't think this is unfair to say, but she is drawn, to talk about the art in the comics there for a minute too. Like, yeah, she is drawn to be an alluring character. Yes. But not in, like, it's a weird kind of thing, because even Marvel Comics, DC was kind of worse about this for a long time, but Marvel has been in there too about drawing female characters in certain kinds of ways. And yes, she's not drawn like that.
No.
But she still has a definite charm about her. One of the things I posted in our Discord is I can't see how anyone that ever reads these comics doesn't have at least a little bit of a crush on her too, because like I don't know, like it's like I wonder if this is how people when Empire came out thought about Lando, because I feel like Lando is the only other character in all of Star Wars who's built around charisma. Yes. But I feel like that's definitely true about her as well. But another thing too about her, and I don't know how much we want to talk about this, but I think it's worth pointing out too. She brings a different type of inclusivity to these comics. Yes. Also, not just because of her romantic relationships with different people, but I mean, I guess at least in part because of it, but like she's written to be a character of multiple interests, the same way that Lando is. And I've honestly been surprised that there hasn't been more backlash against that. Maybe it's because people don't read the comics. But like, I remember when somebody, I don't remember who, said about the Solo movie, that Lando was obviously, sexually interested in all sorts of people. There was backlash about that. But Aphra very much is just into the people she's into. Yeah. And I love that, we were talking about her morality. When the first time she encounters Tolvin, she spares her life, and she tells her up front, it's because I think you're cute.
Cute, yeah. And her dad's like, you have terrible taste in women, which runs in the family. That was a great exchange between the two of them.
But I love that about the character too, because, to go back to, I mean, it's not, which you and I have talked about, Singer from Aftermath, and how heavy-handed his LGBT status was in the first book, right? You talked about that in your your Aftermath videos, the book club thing that you're doing. But this has never been that way before. Like, it's so like not explicit, but is definitely a part of that kind of character, her being the honest person that she is, and it really, really works for her. And it really works in the comic too.
Yes, and yeah, that's true. And like the thing is with Singer, I remember we were talking how even within Aftermath it was so strange, because Singer, there were so many like awkward scenes with the Singer, but I think part of that was just because I never saw any kind of romance between him and the character of Jazz. Sure. And then you were supposed to have this reveal, like, oh no, he's not but I just never felt that between those two characters. But anyway, but then like there's the two other characters of the main character, Timon. His aunts are done so perfectly. Sure. And so like it was just kind of that strange dissonance in the same character, and that's one thing that's really impressed me with the Aphra comic in general, especially with the issues of representation. Because it's not even just Aphra. There's at least one other, if not two, I think there's at least one other same-sex couple, and it's the really self-righteous bounty hunter. I can't remember his name. The guy with no head.
The headless guy, yeah.
Yeah, from Rogue One. And it's there. It's not codified. It's not like we're doing a thing that like represent, you know, like with Flix and Orca on Resistance, where they're a couple, we all know it, but the show won't say it, you know. The comic does not hide that. Like it is what it is, but it's also not like, I don't really know how to explain it in a way where it's not like so in your face about it where it becomes the story.
Right. I mean, it just is.
They just are. Yeah. They just are who they are. They love who they love.
Yeah.
They're into what they're into, and you can take it or leave it. And I've been really impressed with how they've handled it. And I mean, maybe I always feel awkward, like, as a straight person. Like, this is my opinion on LGBT. But I think they handle it really well, and I think it's been good for Marvel Comics.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this for a living, so
yeah,
it's fine for me. But no, I think it's just like you were saying, the whole thing about Aphra is that the character is written to be so honest and so real, and I think the comic does a good job of kind of showing that in her relationships.
Yeah.
Also, whether it's with Santa Staros or with Tolvin, you know, or whoever. I mean, even her relationships with her parents, like, that's a different type of relationship, obviously. But like, she's upfront about the fact that she doesn't like her dad.
Yeah. Oh man, her dad's so great though. I loved it. It's so good. Sorry, I just keep thinking of plot points from these comics, and they make me happy.
Well, another thing we wanted to do, maybe this is a good way to pivot into that, was to talk about which of the arcs that she's been in were our favorites. Do you want to kind of talk about which one was your favorite?
Sure. I will say really quick, Blue Jogan there in the chat, who's a very awesome commenter that we often have. I do agree, Florka is a great name for Flix and Orca. So in terms of arcs, in terms of the Aphra arc, I think Remastered is my favorite.
Yeah.
That's no shade on, like, 4 wasn't as good as 3. No, it was just 3 was so amazing. It's really hard to top that for me.
Right.
I've loved all of the Aphra series. I liked Screaming Citadel. The Vader arcs, like I said, when I reread them, I read them in the hardback, so I don't really differentiate them by trades as well. But I liked that was the one I like. They had like this scam where like they stole a bunch of credits and they like faked the credits
being destroyed,
getting sucked. Yeah, that whole thing was really cool. I believe she has an arc where she interacts with a Given, and I really like anytime Given come into things.
She does, yeah.
But all in all, like, it's that kind of stuff. Really, what I appreciate about Aphra, and I think this is why I liked Remastered the most, is, and by Aphra I mean the series, and I like this about the Vader series, is it's just weird. It's what I liked about Solo so much, is I like it when Star Wars weird.
Right.
Star Wars is weird, whether that's a cantina filled with weird creatures, or the fact that Han works for a weird worm lady. As soon as I saw Lady Proxima, I was just in love with that movie, because I'm like, Han works for a worm lady. This movie's going to be perfect, no matter what happens. But Aphra has so much weirdness, and I liked in Remastered where she had like the frozen Tuca that like blew up. And I just remember reading that. She's like, she's got a thing, like a frozen thing that blows up. And then later you find out she has 60 of them. And I'm like, what? What? And like 000 keeps talking out of that lady's head. And that was just so weird to me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the lady, if you've read the Star Wars, you recently read Yoda's Secret War, the Star Wars annual, and that had like the big strong lady. Is that supposed to be the same lady?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's supposed to be the same lady. She like 000 like talks out of, I don't know. I just like how weird it is. And Remastered was like the epitome of weird.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, because Aphra kills her. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Well, no. Yes, she kills her, and then Tolvin kills somebody and we don't know it, or something like that.
Well,
there were so many twists and turns.
Tolvin was supposed to kill the guy in the mask, the justice guy, but she didn't. Like she stripped him out of the armor because he was still alive after that.
Okay, yep, that makes sense. That's what it was. So many twists and turns.
Yeah. But no, I love how weird this is too, and I think that's one of the things I've liked about this too. I mean, what Screaming Citadel was ridiculous.
Yes, it was.
Like there's nothing about Screaming Citadel that I ever would have expected. I mean, it's like mind vampires. I don't even know how to describe it.
It's like the Night Sisters, but more.
Like I remember I sent you a screen cap of it, and I'm like, what is this? Like this, I'm so like, what? But like even in what was volume 4? The something con.
Catastrophic Con.
Catastrophic Con, yeah. Like they're on this like it's supposed to be like an Imperial prison planet, but it's basically just a bunch of wrecked ships that are held together.
Yep.
That they like crash other ships into when they need like to get something off of them or to like kill the crew of it. Like it's such a weird, like just strange concept. And that's why I think my favorite, which I really liked remastered too. But I also really liked the second arc.
The Enormous Prophet.
The Enormous Prophet 1, which because it was just she tells 000, the purpose of all this is for us to make enormous profit. And then on the next page is like a big splash page. Dr. Aphra and the Enormous Prophet.
Enormous Prophet.
And I saw that as like an Indiana Jones like film title, like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Dr. Aphra and the Enormous Prophet. Like it was just like I just had to put it down and laugh at that because that was
I laugh so often reading these comics.
But like that whole thing where like she's making people bid on this like ancient Jedi AI who can have like telepathic control over robots. Like it's so weird, but like it fits in Star Wars, but it also does things that even the mainline Star Wars comic couldn't get away with.
Right. And I to backtrack a little bit on talking about what's so intriguing about her character is what I like about her is how normal she is in all this weirdness, right? So
yeah, sure.
I feel like so often it's been like, are you into Star Wars because you like the Jedi and the Sith and the Force and all of this stuff? Or are you into Star Wars because you like the pilots and the smugglers and the bounty hunters and like the normal people? Aphra is normal, right? Like she doesn't have Force powers. If she's Force sensitive, she's Force sensitive in the way Han is, where they're just freaking lucky, right? They're not like Jedi or anything. So she's just a mortal. But she's a mortal with Jedi AI and sentient fungus and all of this other stuff. That like a Jedi would be like, I don't even know how to handle this, and she's just going through it. And so to me, it's like the best of both worlds. Like she's this mortal, you can connect to her and feel like you could. I feel like I could be Aphra because I don't really have to be anything more than I am right now.
Right.
But I get to go on the big giant event. I mean, imagine Luke Skywalker at the place where they found Rue, and what he would be like, and she's there instead. And I think that's something that's really cool about her and the weirdness of the comic.
And I think she fills a void in Star Wars. Like I don't think there has been a character like her before. I mean, even like Hondo and Lando, I guess, are like the two closest analogies that I can think of. But like she is so different. Yet, like I feel like she could headline a show or an animated show, in a way that most like characters that have only been in books or comics, I don't know, could. Like just because of that charisma. I mean, I have no idea who I would cast as Dr. Aphra in anything because like she is so much her own thing in my mind.
Right.
But
yeah, it would almost have to be somebody I haven't heard of who could.
I mean, you could just genetically engineer a person and just let her be Aphra. But like,
I'm pretty
like
sure
Aphra
that's what they do for the Marvel movies.
Yeah,
so,
but like she has an assassin protocol droid and a mobile armory astromech. Like it's so absurd, but the absurdity
works.
never gets in the way of it working. But like
right.
it always works. It's never not worked. The only time I didn't enjoy a comic she was in as much was the Rebel Jail arc of the main line. And I don't think it was a bad arc. You know, it's a good story, I think, but that was the only time Aphra didn't feel like Aphra to me.
Right.
I think she was more explicitly villainous in that. And I think she was less charismatic in that.
Yep.
And so I don't think that worked as much for me.
Yeah.
But apart from that, like I feel like she's been written consistently, and it is so compelling in ways.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just saying the same things over again.
Over and over.
But it's hard to put it into words.
Well, and I think too, this just kind of hit me while we were talking on this stream, is I think she's a case of a character that if she were a side character, I don't think she would work as well. And maybe that's part of the issue in Rebel Jail, although I agree. I think she was different. She was more bitter over Santa in a way that she hasn't been about anything really in any other time. But like, what makes her work is when you know what she's thinking.
Right.
Like you have to know what's going on in her head, because that's just the fascinating part. Right. Where when you, if you think about like other interesting characters, like with Hondo or Lando, they're fun, but you don't necessarily need to know what they're thinking to enjoy what the character is. And I mean, it's fun to know what they're thinking too. I'm not saying that they're not fun as main characters, because they can definitely hold their own, but they don't have to be. They can also be on the side, and you can kind of appreciate them. But I feel like Aphra, as just the plucky comic relief, doesn't work somehow. And again, like, I really don't know how to articulate it, because one of the people I've talked to who wasn't as big of a fan of her comic, he didn't really say he didn't like her as a character. He just said he wasn't a fan of the comic. And he was trying to ask me why, and I couldn't articulate it. I've thought and I've tried, and like when I knew we were doing this stream, I was trying to think, and I can't explain it. There's just something so unique about her that makes it so wonderful.
Right. Well, and I feel like a lot of that has to be credited to the writing. But I just feel like there's something about the character. Like I know characters don't exist apart from the way they're written and things like that. But I don't know. Like she just, from the very beginning of the Vader comic when she was there, she just felt different. And in a way that is just immediately compelling.
She feels like she belongs in Star Wars, like instantly. You know, I think the only other time, you know, I think of different things I've watched. Like, I love Ahsoka now, and I love the Clone Wars, but it took time for Ahsoka to grow on me. Right. I love Rebels, but the characters needed time to kind of grow on me. And not that they didn't belong in Star Wars, but it was just kind of like, okay, I have to kind of get used to this is Star Wars. And then I got there, but it took time. But I was reading this, and like instantly I was like, nope, she's here. She belongs. Right. Like, in the same way, like I remember watching The Force Awakens, and you know, the first time Finn and Poe meet each other, I'm like, yep, I'm in it. Like, instantaneously in love with both of these characters in one scene. Right. Sometimes characters are just kind of lightning in a bottle, and she's like a whole thunderstorm in a bottle.
Right. I mean, and she's not written to be a Mary Sue either. Like,
no, not at all.
She definitely has that Han Solo streak of luck.
Yeah.
But she is very rarely good at what she does.
Right. No, she's
at least
constantly
not in the way
failing.
that she intends to be. Like she always has enough backup plans. Like, that's how she survives. It's not because she perfectly executes the thing that she planned to do at the beginning. It's because she got all the way down to plan H. Right. I mean, because even like, you know, that was the big twist at the end of Arc 4 or Volume 4 was, you know, she manipulates the I just call him the Justice Guy in my mind because that's.
I can't ever remember.
I want justice.
I love these comics. I love these characters so much. You would think I'd remember their names, but I don't.
But like, he's looking to like capture and put on trial Doctor
Evazan, yeah.
And so like, she's got this guy that she thinks is a shapeshifter. And so she like tricks him into looking like Dr. Evazan so that this guy will come. And then it turns out that is Dr. Evazan, which is crazy. But like, but I don't know, like that was way down on her list. And like she tells Tolvin, she's like, you know, this is not the plan. Like the plan was, you know, for you to get off, and then I was going to figure something out, because that's what her skill is. Her skill is at figuring something out. But I mean, she is a really smart person. You know, she knows what she's talking about. She knows her archaeology stuff.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's just so well done.
She's good at knowing what other people are good at. Like, it's not like she comes in and does these amazing things. It's that she's really good at tricking other talented people into doing amazing things for her.
Right. Well, it's like she's not inspirational in the way that Leia is.
Right.
But she definitely brings out the best in the people around her, which is, I think, why they want to be around her, even though they know that very often she is manipulating them. Because they are, in no small way, their best self when they're around her.
Well, and I even like Evazan's reason for like binding her to 000 is literally that they deserve each other.
Right. I mean, but even like just the small, like little details, like the fact that almost every time she talks to Tolvin, she calls her sir. Because like she's like leaning into that.
It's
like,
so
that
it's so cute.
Thing.
Like it's just so cute. I can't handle it. It's so cute.
Or like when she had the I'm blanking on the name. The little animal that she had.
The Tukas?
The Tukas, yeah. I couldn't come up with Tuka. I wanted to say Targ, but that's a Klingon thing. That's different. But like the trigger word to make them explode was Snugglebum Oogie Woogie. Like that is like, again, that's ridiculous, but that is so Aphra. Like, of course it is. Like, of course that's the trigger.
And then the poor guys are like, she's renaming all the codes in the ship, sir. I don't care. Just do it anyway. All right, launch Operation Bombs Schnuggle or whatever it was. I just hit the idea of an Imperial having to say that was so good.
But
it's just their works of art. I really can't explain it. Man.
I don't know. Like she's a different character for sure.
She really is. She adds so much, and I feel like it's a shame because I feel like the people who really know who she is really, really like her for the most part, and I feel like she's something in canon that a lot of people would really gravitate to, and in a way apart from the really nasty toxic corner that wouldn't like her for several obvious reasons,
or who would like her for the wrong reasons.
Right, exactly. I think there's a lot of just the people who felt estranged from Star Wars in the new canon that would actually really like her character, and I think it's too bad that they would probably never give it a try, even though I think this is more along the lines of what people, some of the drifters have, the good-hearted drifters have been looking for.
Right. And I don't think that personally, I don't think that it's likely that we will ever see Aphra on screen. But
no,
if we did, would you want that? Or does it work better because she's in the ones that she's in?
That's such a hard question for me. If they made an Aphra like Disney Plus TV show, I would watch the frick out of it. Like I would just be there to support the character. So I'm not going to say like I wouldn't do it. I would be apprehensive about it because she's so near and dear to my heart.
Right.
That Like, I don't know what I would do. Like, if Gillen was involved, I would feel a lot better about it. Like, if in any way, even if I don't know if he, because writing TV scripts and writing comic scripts are different. I don't know enough about his repertoire to know if he does regular script, or not regular, if he does TV scripts. But even if he wasn't involved in that way, if he was just heavily into consulting on it, I would feel a lot better. I feel like, well, oddly enough, if it was an animated show, I'd feel better about it than a live action. Because to go into the weirdness that we talked about, I just wonder how corny it would look to have some of the stuff that's in the comics in live action. Now, if they could do it, great. Like, my apprehension wouldn't be anything other than being worried that it wouldn't look good. And I think in animation they could capture the kind of tone better. Right.
And to respond to stuff in the comics or in the comments, I definitely think the comics are worth it. I will say too, I know comics get expensive and that keeps a lot of people out of them. But I don't know about where everybody else lives, but my library has a lot of Star Wars comics.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely worth checking into. I feel like some libraries may be more likely to have the Vader stuff than the Aphra comic. Which you know, she's in those. But if you can afford it or you can find it, I think it's definitely worth your time.
And if you're patient about it and you do want to try buying them, they get cheaper the more that you buy together, at least for Marvel Comics. So like the trades are cheaper than buying comics individually, and then if you can really wait, the hardcovers are even cheaper than buying all the trades together. So that's a thing. But yeah, the libraries are always good. I've read a lot of Star Wars comics through the library.
And I know some people can't do digital comics as much either, but Marvel has a pretty good digital service, and they put stuff on sale. A lot too. So it's something I would keep an eye out for.
But out of all of the, I mean, I would put Aphra up there. Really, the Vader and then Aphra is in a way kind of a continuation of most of the first Vader series. I would put those right up there above a lot of the novels I've read, even to be honest. I've liked them so much.
But unless chat has other specific questions, we are kind of at time for today. So I do want you to encourage us, join us on our Discord especially. You know, I was going to plug all of our, I should put the Discord link, I know it's been in the chat, but I should put it somehow in the little social media blurb that I have on screen. You should check out our Discord, as we've been talking about some of the comics there. There's some of that conversation still on our forums occasionally. But check us out on all the social medias, on Facebook and Twitter, where we're pretty active. Our new Instagram account and things like that, to make sure you're staying plugged in with us. And we also, there's Poetic. We also are still doing our art challenge that we have going on right now.
That might get extended.
Yeah, but I'll plug that again really quick too. But I've had fun. I love Aphra, and I love any chance to talk about her.
And I'm real excited. The fifth story arc is ongoing, and I'm excited for that to wrap up so I can read it. Right. And that's been good. But yeah. And the other thing too, guys, just to go back a bit, if you join the Discord, that is the best way to know when we're gonna go live.
Right. Yeah.
Because when our schedules move around, that's really where I talk about it. And we're all fairly reachable there too. If you guys have questions, if you just pop it in one of the channels at any given point in time, Django or I are online at all times, basically, because of my weird schedule. Right. One of us is around. And if all goes according to plan, sometime mid-afternoon, maybe early afternoon, depending on your definition of early afternoon, I should be streaming the Force Unleashed, which I was going to do today, but our schedule shifted.
I'll also say just stuff that we've got come out recently. You put up a video that's a different kind of thing than we usually do yesterday that I would encourage you to check out. It's a kind of music video of sorts, so it's really good. I would send people to that. And I got back into some Funko reviews.
Yeah, you did.
This week, too. So we'll have some more of those coming out in the next couple of weeks also.
It's going to be Funko Tuesdays for a couple of Tuesdays. Yep. So get ready for that.
Might give me an excuse to buy some more.
But, to keep Funko Tuesdays alive.
But I think that's going to do it for us today, though, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Should we send people to Great Canadian Guy?
Sure. Is he still streaming?
Yeah.
Which, while you look up that link, we do want to shout out all of our friends in the chat, many of whom are content creators, so go check out all of their stuff. I know Bosk was here, and B-Man, and John, of course, and Poetic there.
Poetic. Jarrett, Mind of Martinez there he's more on Twitch these days than YouTube, but he is also a streamer. And if we ever forget you guys, it's never intentional, so you should just please shout yourself out. Like, I know that's awkward, but like if it's at the end of the stream, we don't care. Yeah. If you do it.
And Sarge,
hey, Madworks Den. Well, yeah, I gotta say that I genuinely wish I could chat with your brother about these comics.
He would like them a lot.
Yep. I'm so glad to see you here, and glad that you dropped by. And that's definitely a thought I have still daily to this day.
Yeah. He was a special guy to us.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think we will end it on that note, though. And we will see you guys next week.
But head over to that's Great Canadian Guy. Tell him we sent you. He's a little bit less family friendly than us, but he's a good person.
Yeah. But see you guys next week.
Bye.